So, if you're watching this video, we have probably reached that point in time in our class when you're starting to get feedback on your work that you're producing. Usually when we meet face to face, we have a nice long conversation about the role of constructive criticism in this class and beyond. So I want to share with you just real briefly a couple slides that I prepared, and then we'll talk a little bit more about my experience giving and accepting criticism. So accepting criticism is hard. I acknowledge that both from a perspective as a student, having been a student in a research methods class just like yours, where I received feedback, but also as a current writer who submits papers for publication, has to go through the peer review process. And also from the perspective as the person who now is also giving you and other of my peers feedback through this peer review process. So I acknowledge very much so that accepting criticism is hard. It sucks, but you've got to remember that it is never a personal attack on you. When anybody critiques your work, myself or a peer or the Writing Center, it's because we're trying to help you, right? We know that you have the ability to do great things, and we want to help you improve your skills. It's not a personal attack against you. It's nothing about your abilities or your intelligence. As a matter of fact, if I didn't think that you had the ability or the intelligence to do better, I would not waste my time giving you this peer review and constructive criticism. So you've got to remember that it takes a lot of time and effort to do peer review. If this class was meeting face-to-face, we would actually do peer review in the classroom. If you're interested, I have an activity I'm happy to share with you online. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to manage that. But anyway, it takes a lot of time and effort. I've got to read what you're writing. I've got to try to interpret it and then think about, what are my suggestions, and then actually physically write or type that feedback. It takes a long time. If I didn't want to help you, I would not invest that time in you. And so that's something to really think about as you're asking for and receiving peer review. So let me just share with you a couple final thoughts, and then I want to give you some examples, some personal examples. But yeah, critique always sucks. It continues to suck today, and I'm going to share an example of that with you in 1 second. You'll always be inclined to take it personally, right? I do. When I see peer review like I'm going to show you in a second, I'm very inclined to take that personally. But don't. Take a step back and realize it's not a criticism against you or your ideas. It's trying to make it better. My best advice, ask for any help you can get, right? A peer, your friend in the class, another professor, me, the Writing Center, your parents, anybody that you can ask for feedback on your writing, because you want to know, is your writing clear, right? Even if they don't understand the premise, do they at least understand the words that you're saying? And then listen to that advice, but also listen graciously, right? That's very challenging to do. So for example, if somebody gives you some advice or peer review that you disagree with, that's fine, right? Do keep in mind though that even if your idea is still the same, whatever way you've articulated it in your writing didn't come out clear. So even if you want to argue, well, my idea still stands, I'm not going to change that, you could acknowledge that, well, but obviously I didn't write that as clearly as I could have. I tried to revise in the following ways, right? But just be gracious. So let me give you some examples of that. Okay, so first let me share with you that I had an experience as an undergraduate, just like you, in a research methods class. When I was an undergraduate in my methods class, it was very much like yours. We had stats as the prereq. We had to design, conduct, analyze, report the results of our own independent research study, and we submitted our paper in drafts. So I took the class, ours was a 300 level, so I had a number of other classes, including English classes, under my belt. I always fashioned myself an outstanding writer. I liked writing. I always got A's in English. And I expected the first draft of my introduction to go along swimmingly, right? I thought it was going to be great. I was really proud of the work that I did. I spent a lot of time and effort reading the articles, finding the articles, and writing that introduction. I thought it was wonderful. Anyway, I was the type of student, I'll also share with you, sat in the back of the room, didn't talk to anybody, never would raise my hand or talk in class. I just thought I was anonymous and I liked it that way. Now fast forward to my experience after the professor had the chance to look at the introductions that our class submitted. And he came in with this huge stack of papers, because back in the day everything was hard copy papers, and he stomped into the room and slammed him on the desk. And he's like, I am so mad. I'm so angry. These papers are horrible. I don't know where you people learn to write. What are you doing in college? I mean, he was just going on and on. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the back of the room thinking, yeah, whatever. I'm safe because I know I'm a great writer. Well, darned if he didn't pick up the top paper off that stack, and he holds it up and he looks at it and he's like, let me give you an example. The worst paper in the lot. He's like, who's Simon? Well, my maiden name is Simon. And I looked up and I was like, I froze. I didn't know what to do. And he starts ranting and raving about how horrible that paper was, and I didn't know what to do. I started laughing. Like I just started laughing, like a defense mechanism, whatever. I remember this so vividly, though. It's one of those flashbulb memories in my life. I didn't know what to do. So after laughing uncontrollably for a while, I let him go on and continue his rant. He finally left me alone. I made it through the class without saying anything beyond my laughter. But I went to him after the class and I said, I'm Simon and I see all this feedback. I mean, my whole front page was just red pen, red pen, red pen. Everything was crossed out, words were rewritten, all of these editorial comments. And I just sat down with him and I said, what can I do to make it better? And it was only after that kind of feedback, not just from him, but from many, many, many other professors in my career. Oh my gosh, my PhD advisor, I would have to sit down at the desk next to him and go line by painful line, analyzing every single word that I would write in anything. And it was a painful process, but that's how I learned, That's how I learned to be a good scientific writer, because scientific writing is not the same as creative writing. We get directly to the point. You present your facts. There is no flowery language. There are no colloquialisms. We don't quote other people. We explain in our own words in the most succinct way possible what we did, why we did it, how we did it, what we found, what it means. And that's it. You stick to the facts. And it's a very, very, very different kind of writing. So, do I think I'm good at it today? Yeah, I am good at it today. But was it easy getting here? No. Did it take a lot of feedback, a lot of constructive criticism? Yes. Does it get any easier? Well, even though now I do consider myself a good writer, let me give you an example of what peer review looks like. So, let me close this and share with you some feedback that I got on a recent paper that I submitted. So, we wrote a paper. I wrote this paper in conjunction with some Miami regional campus undergraduates. And let me tell you that the paper is published, and overall the reviewers loved the paper. They really loved it. Yet we still went through this peer review process. On this particular paper, I had 5 peer reviewers. I'm going to share with you some examples from 3. So here was one. It was all blind peer review, so notice how we black out our name and our affiliation, anything that could identify me or Miami or my students, and our acknowledgments, blah, blah. Okay, so all that's blacked out. So you can see that this particular reviewer chose to do text markup to give me feedback. And so they're leaving a few comments here, right? So they're highlighting a sentence, this seems like a major oversimplification. Can you make this a bit more nuanced? Okay, yeah, I get that. I could do that, right? I think a slight qualifier here, right? So these are good comments, good feedbacks from the perspective that, yeah, I think I'm a good writer, but sometimes people reading it don't understand what I'm saying. I can always improve, right? And so this reviewer had a couple more minor comments like that. Wonderful, excellent, able to address those, no problem. I had a second reviewer, and let's look at this one. This reviewer chose to print off and then handwrite comments. And so you can see, and oh, I like this right away on the front page, right? Publish with the recommended revisions. And so I start scrolling through. Okay, what are their recommended revisions? Looking so good. Okay, so here a little more clarification. In 4 years, what? Wait, meaning? What do you mean here? Okay, why just Ohio? Blah blah blah. Okay, so these again, good, helpful comments. I'm not too upset yet. This seems great. Let me show you a third peer review on this same paper. So this one, same thing. They're looking at the same blacked out one. This one also chose to use text markup comments. OMG. Oh, I mean, holy cow. Oh my gosh. You look at that and it's like, they might as well have just rewritten the whole paper, right? I mean, the comments are longer than the paper. And so when you get that kind of feedback, it's still to this day to me, it's defeating, it's shocking. I seriously, I have to go and like put it all away and go get a drink and sleep on it and just vent to somebody, and then come back with a clear mind the next day and remind myself again, what is the purpose of peer review, what we're doing, and the whole idea that it's all for constructive criticism. In my last couple of minutes left of this video, I will share with you that, using this particular paper as an example, when you go through the peer review process, you get to, well, you have to, if you want to revise and resubmit to get your paper published, you got to prepare one of these comment to reviewer pages. I always start mine out with, again, that gracious appreciation for their time and effort. We sincerely thank each of the reviewers for their careful attention, thoughtful comments. We've addressed the reviewers' concerns in the following ways. Reviewer A, that was the one who had hardly any comments. We made all suggested edits. Thanks. Reviewer B, same thing, all suggested edits. Reviewer C had a lot of comments though. Some we agreed with, some we didn't. In these longer paragraphs, we may have addressed some ways that we weren't able to change, but then this gives them the opportunity to consider what we changed, what we didn't, and why, and how we clarified the paper. Then the paper will go through that peer review process again, and if they feel that we've addressed all of their concerns, the paper will get published. So I shared that with you with the idea in mind that, especially if you're taking Psych 294 with me, that your submissions, resubmissions, and feedback are meant to feel a lot like this peer review process. You'll write something, I'll leave you detailed feedback, detailed like my last example, right? I'll have a lot of feedback, probably, right? If I don't, you're really lucky. But I'll probably have what will feel like a lot of feedback. And yeah, you'll have to go back line by line and line if you choose, right? You don't have to. You could accept whatever your first grade is and then just revise and resubmit it to the final paper, as best you can. But you're also encouraged on each draft to continue revising, and I'll continue adjusting your grade. So take advantage of those opportunities. Again, it's all meant to help you and to help you understand the role of constructive criticism in this class and beyond. As always, if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to email and set up individual conferences. Thanks so much. Happy writing.